Hello everyone and welcome to the Constructive Criticism Network. This network is here to help you improve at Magic the Gathering at every level. From Pauper Leagues to Top 1000 Mythic, we've got you covered. If you want to hear the entire network, head on over to our sponsor at puremtgo.com, where you can hear each and every show, each and every week, and check out their sponsor, MTGO Traders, and tell them that the CCMTG Network sent you. Now sit back, enjoy the show. From YouTube, podcasts, and more, here's this week's episode from ConstructiveCriticism.com.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 105 of the Common Knowledge Podcast. I am your host, Christian, and as always, I'm joined by my heart-stopping co-host, Colton. How are you doing tonight, Colton?
Great. How are you, Christian?
Doing well, thank you. Before we get too far into this episode, I just wanted to remind everyone that Common Knowledge and all of the podcasts on the Constructive Criticism Network are sponsored by puremtgo.com. If you guys wanted to support the show, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Constructive Criticism YouTube channel and check out our Patreon. With all that out of the way, let's get on with our podcast for the week. So before we get into the rest of the show, we did want to announce that there is going to be a poll going up on Twitter, probably the same day that this is released. It's basically Colton and I are going to be playing a budget deck and Pauper every month, and then sort of doing an episode going over whatever deck we decided to play. Our limitations are we're going to keep it to $20 or under. And so we just wanted to let you guys vote on what we decided to build and test and play. So that should be up on both of our Twitters as well as the show Twitter.
Yeah, so we decided to go with a Google form for this just to make sure it's more easily accessible to everyone. And as month to month, if we want to add or subtract options, we can have more than 4 options available some months. So yeah, I also added a thing where you can put your Twitter handle in the second question. That's just simply for us to kind of gauge viewer interest and see how many people are interested in this kind of thing. Our goal is to try to keep the decks around $20. With how low the budget is, please keep in mind that card prices do fluctuate. So sometimes it may be about $18, $19. Sometimes it may be like $22, $23. It really just depends. We'll try our best, but like I said, with such a low budget, prices can and will fluctuate. It is the market, but our goal is to try to keep it at about $20 a deck.
Yeah. So with that out of the way, I guess we could get into another new segment that we're going to try and do. And that's just what decks we've both been playing each week. Colton, if you sort of wanted to take the lead and tell us about what you're playing.
So I've been trying to play around with the green black aristocrats deck again. Partially because there have been, at least I've been feeling like there's more black decks around and more removal heavy decks, and just because of the the inherent 2-for-1 strategy that aristocrats tend to play, it tends to make those 1-for-1 removal spells not as good. And so I've been trying to play something that's not only budget friendly but also very resilient. I haven't settled on a list yet. There's still a couple of lists kind of floating around, but I'm really enjoying the deck. I don't think it's quite top tier yet, but it's definitely a rogue strategy to watch out for if in the Pauper community.
For sure. I don't know. I imagine that deck can probably grind with a lot of the other really grindy decks in Pauper.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with all the graveyard synergies and stuff. That's something that a lot of Pauper decks take advantage of a little bit, but not much.
Mm-hmm.
And it's evident in other formats that if you can grind out a bunch of value out of your graveyard, you probably have the recipe for something really strong.
Yeah, and it also can it also has really good reach with the card from Theros allows you to sack to drain, and with the scorpions from Ikoria that also let you drain when they die. So you're not just always attacking, you can also get in those last couple points of damage through a huge wall of elves, or if your opponent is down to a couple life and they set up, their Tron loop or whatever, And sometimes it just is really nice to have options to not just always have to attack for a game, but have a couple ways to just kind of eke out those last couple points.
Yeah, for sure. For myself, I've been sort of toying around with like different Grixis Delver decks. Specifically, I've been trying to fit Bone Picker into them. So I've been doing stuff like playing with Thriving Lands. I've tried some with Duress, without Duress. I've tried different mixes of like Scred, Cast Down, and Lightning Bolt. I've tried it with even trying to play like the Fairies package and stuff. With that, what I've been sort of learning is that I'm not sure how well Bone Picker actually synergizes. And the reason that I say that is a lot of what I think makes like Delver really strong is because it's such a potent turn one play in Pauper, and Pauper like tends to not have too many like really good ones. Um, so like with Bone Picker, it's sort of weird that like if you want it for like that one mana cost, you have to do like some setup, and it almost makes me think that maybe Bone Picker needs to be in a slightly different deck that's built more on like less tempo-y and more of like a control deck or whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
I've started seeing a lot of more blue black lists that have just cut the Delvers in favor of four Bone Pickers.
mm-hmm.
Just because you can a lot of times more consistently make of 1 mana flying 3/2, and it also has Death Touch, so it can also trade with bigger things if you need it to.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I saw there was a deck list dump today actually that I was sort of looking through, and there was a blue black Bone Picker deck that I'm really wanting to try out this week just to see how it looks.
Yeah, I think that the biggest challenge for trying to build the Grixis Delver into this format is that um, Grixis style Delver decks specifically tend to use a lot of things that pressure your opponent's mana and tries to 2-for-1 your opponent in a lot of ways. So like for instance in Legacy you get cards like Wasteland and Hymn to Torok, which
Mm-hmm.
can, kind of blow out your opponent's hand, and also you can play Waste Not, and you also get to play stuff like Force of Will to try to stop those unfair decks, which you don't have so much in a Pauper. But I think it's just trying to find somewhere for the Delver deck to pressure tempo without, while you're also at the same time playing cards that are playing lands that come into play tap more, which Delver doesn't really like, blah blah blah. It's just trying to figure out like a tempo-y game plan in a 3-color deck.
Agree with pretty much everything that you said there. But yeah. So with that, unless you had anything else to add about either one of the decks that we've been playing, did you want to sort of get into our main topic?
Yeah, so what we want to talk about today is, excuse me, is kind of been something that's been on my mind a lot, especially in the age of Magic Twitter, um, and that's negativity and positivity, and trying to build positivity, especially in the Pauper format. Pauper is especially compared to many of the other MTG communities like Modern or EDH or Standard and Pioneer, whatever, is a lot smaller, and as a result, if things go really well, that means things can get better quickly, and they can also deteriorate really quickly.
Yeah. So positivity is super important, especially in like especially in niche communities. And like we're sort of like a niche community within a niche community, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So like if communities get hostile, they get a bad name really really quickly, and that bad name can attract the wrong type of people. Whereas like if you have like a play group that's like known as being super accepting and super friendly and super helpful, you're going to get more friendly and helpful people that are willing to help as well as learn.
Yeah.
Just by nature of like you sort of attract similar people to who you are.
Mm-hmm. And it's also kind of like a law of large numbers thing. So like one of the biggest um, things I see in the Magic communities, people always have like stereotypes of different Magic players. So you have stereotypes of your different EDH players and your modern players always clamoring for bans, and your EDH players that either want to do super broken stuff or they don't know what they're doing, their deck's full of jank, blah blah blah. And what I feel like is so that's in comparison to like a large population, like the modern and EDH community are not very big, but comparatively, like modern and EDH have a lot more overall players and a larger fan base, I guess you'd say, than Pauper. So if we build positive voices, it gets built quickly. But as soon as those like negative seeds start, they just spread like wildfire.
So whenever we say positivity, sort of at least what I mean is mostly being willing to help others, I guess.
Hmm.
That like online behavior, sort of, as well as like using Pauper as sort of like a vehicle to like make friends, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, so a lot of stuff whenever like I've been a part of like local play groups that play Pauper, something that we always really tried to do is that a few people would always have second and sometimes even third decks that they'd be willing to loan to people that were wanting to try the format. I don't know. Pauper is the most accessible format cost wise the vast majority of the time,
Hmm.
and so because of that, I think that if you are starting a local group or in a local group, trying to make it even more accessible will be the best way to try and grow it and keep things moving in the right direction. Um,
Yeah,
and just like really remember that Magic is for everybody,
yeah.
and trying to keep it that way.
I was recently listening to one of the episodes of the Budget Magic cast, with Emma Partlow and Scott. And Scott's he's known primarily for being a big Is It mage like myself. Um, he was a huge he was really really big into Is It Phoenix, but he's also a really huge Pauper player. And he was telling us that over in Ireland where he lives before in the pre-Corona times, when they would have when he'd go to F&M or whatever, he was known as the Pauper guy because he just had 10 decks, because he said, well, they each only cost me like 20-30 bucks a piece to build, so he just built a ton of them. And they'd run the whole Pauper F&M out of his bag pretty much. And that's something that with Pauper you can, you know, if you have a decent amount of money, is not entirely unlikely to do. It's not something that's like completely out of reach.
um, yeah, and then I don't know. That's like I said, that's something that like you can even use those as like a vehicle to get people into like Magic in general.
Hmm.
It's just like using the Pauper format as a way to teach Magic, because a lot of the format is about like just like the fundamentals. So like you would be doing someone a really good service and teaching them how to play Magic, but you would also be sort of getting them into this format. And there's
Yeah, yeah. I feel like Pauper, especially, the interactions. Well, first you're the first big thing is you're generally in Pauper not going into huge stacks like you can sometimes in other formats. And the cards themselves, especially since about when was New World Order, about 2008 2009. Um, most most commons they've been Wizards has been working on for the past over a decade or so of making commons much more easy and simple to understand. Now you'll still get the weird ones every once in a while, but in general, reading through and figuring out what a common does is generally easier than figuring out what the latest hot rare or mythic does in the latest standard set.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah. So with all that in mind, another thing that like I think I wanted to mention is that like whenever you think about things in a positive manner and are really complimentary of others and willing to work with others, it also helps grow your skills as a player. what I mean by that, I saw someone post on Twitter, and I wish I could remember who it was, so I could give them a shout out. Basically, somebody posted that if you have the mindset whenever you lose of, man, my opponent played really, really well, it sort of forces you to think about the things that they did well. Is And in addition to, you also sort of think about maybe the things that you could have improved on, and it helps promote like a healthier like growth mindset, I guess is how I would put it, of sort of everyone like thinking forward and how they can improve. So even though like you should never treat things like positivity like selfishly per se, like there is still something to like personally gain from being positive. It's not just for like the best of the community per se.
Hmm. And kind of another thing with that is also like being positive, not only about like how you and your opponent play, but like how like feeling good for the community as a whole. You know, like there have been for all the ups and downs, there have been a lot of good things that have happened for Pauper in the past couple of years. For for a long time, Pauper was like almost considered in a lot of minds like the Magic Online joke format, as like kind of the air quotes. Um, like the leagues were all considered friendly leagues. You couldn't take your wins from Pauper and translate them into something better in Magic Online. It was kind of like a way that people used, and from what I when I understood, because I didn't play it back in those days, but a lot of people were telling me how it was fun. But if you wanted to play more, premier higher level Magic on Magic Online or in paper or whatever, Pauper wasn't really that much of an option. You could grind tickets and then use those tickets to build into Modern or Legacy or Standard or Draft, but you couldn't actually play Pauper up to a higher competitive level. But now, we've had our first Pauper PTQ was what, last year, 2 years ago. We got a unified ban list. The leagues on for Pauper on Magic Online actually count towards something now, and so there have been a lot of. It's been kind of slow, but there's been a lot of great progress made for our format in the past couple of years.
For sure. And those are things to sort of be positive about. I think a lot of times people get caught up in the negatives. So, like, for example, I still hear, and honestly, I'm guilty of this from time to time. People sort of talk about like how big of a mess up like Astrolabe was specifically for the Pauper format,
Oh, that card's just a mess,
and
period.
yeah, but like how much damage it did to the format and stuff. But I don't know. I think that what sort of goes missed a lot of times is the fact that Wizards did correct it, and like that was sort of like an extension to show that they care about the format. And honestly, like even though maybe I would handle the ban list like a slightly different way, the fact that they're even trying to make changes to the format with having a slightly heavier hand with the bans in the past couple of years is a positive thing and not a negative thing.
Hmm.
So I think that like even Wizards giving the outreach to the community is like something that we should focus on being appreciative of.
Yeah, and also I've noticed in the past little while, especially with everything going digital with this whole pandemic deal, is the rise of more like Discord channels and Discord servers. Like one of my Twitter mutuals, they Drac V, and they've started the Pauper Guild on Discord, and they have a really great community. They do a lot of tournaments that are just kind of different sub themes of Pauper. Like they've done Singleton, they've done a bunch of other things, and they hand out small prizes on MTGO at the end. And just really building, because we're all kind of stuck at home in this quarantine. So especially right now, like being a big part of the online community, whether it's local, international, whatever, is really key to like meeting new friends, finding new possibilities, and growing as a player.
Yeah, especially like online, I don't know, whenever I play my matches, in addition to the like good luck, have fun stuff that I think a pretty good amount of people do, I also try and like ask my opponent like how they came up with their deck ideas, and if they're willing to share, obviously they do. But like also like just like being complimentary of the deck or complimentary of people's play, like actually on Moto, is something that I think if you like you see like all the screenshots about Moto chat, I think that there's
Oh, so
a lot of
many
like
Moto screenshots.
yeah, but like they're all like these like negative things. Very rarely do you see like positive ones. And honestly, I've had way more positive interactions in Moto chat than negative ones. I think
Hmm.
since I've been playing online, I think I've had like maybe 2 or 3 negative interactions and probably more than 20 like really positive interactions where people tell me that they're going to look up the cast or I'm asking them about their deck and they like add me on social media and send me a DM with like the list that they were playing,
Hmm.
et cetera, et cetera. And obviously like that's not for everyone, but I don't know. There's definitely nothing wrong with like complimenting your opponents and trying to make them feel good and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm personally not a huge Moto chatter. That's just I'm really bad at like typing out not socially awkward responses. But then that's just me. I'll chat with people if they want to, but I'm not gonna. I don't normally initiate. But yeah, it's just like trying to be don't especially on Moto. Moto gets like a horrible rap, which I feel like is 95% undeserved in a lot of ways. Um, it is still Moto. It still has its problems. I mean, it still has issues with the with how it doesn't look very nice and whatever. Trust me, it used to be a lot worse. Um, um, and some of the people, but overall, like Moto's great. Honestly, I've I've had personally had better, more fun interactions on Moto than I have on Arena. Like I honestly barely play Arena anymore, and a lot of it is due to like just how the play experience is. Maybe it's just me because I think Marina looks really pretty and it's fun to watch, but like just the interactions and the roping to me are just like not very fun. So, but yeah, Moto's especially in the Pauper community, Moto's great, and there is, I will say from because I've played EDH, Pioneer, Modern, and Pauper all on MTGO. And me personally, I felt like Pauper has been overall the most fun and the most in interactive. And we really want to keep that up because some people still have this thing that the MTGO Pauper is like people are just degenerate nonsense. They don't know what they're doing. Blah blah blah. Because all the decks are cheap. That's a load of crap. Most people on MTGO are nice, and if you continue that niceness, then it gets better.
yeah, and you mentioned it earlier, but I did want to reiterate that like from Moto, you can also join like so many other like really cool online communities. The Pauper Guild is one, but like even like if it's like something with your friends, like in quarantine and stuff, obviously like I don't get to see like my real life friends too often, but like we're all in a Discord server together, and one of the channels is like specifically just about Magic related stuff. Where like once a week we jump in, we'll play a few games together on Moto, we'll like share deck list and ideas and videos and podcasts other people have put out. And even like using the internet to grow like your extremely local community can work wonders, as long as you keep everything based around trying to be nice and friendly and positive.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. Negativity is good at growing a community in the short term, but in the long term, whenever you have a community based around negativity, what you're going to find is eventually that negativity will be turned towards you. So
Hmm. Yeah. I personally, before quarantine was like a sort of. I've had Discord for like 4 years, but I've never been like a huge user of it until about quarantine time, and then I've joined a bunch of different discords, and it's pretty easy to tell very quickly which are more positivity based, which are more negativity based. And the Discord community and like people's feelings and emotions in the Discord will really, really quickly show. So just like finding a community that is positive and building it up and trying to like add to make sure that you add something, because all negativity does in the end is it subtracts. And our goal here, especially since we're always trying to improve, hashtag always improving, that's the constructive criticism network's slogan, is positivity adds, negativity subtracts. Like that's literally what they mean. So I'm not saying always be happy and don't complain when Wizards messes up or whatever, or if someone messes up, but don't not but putting your best foot forward, trying to do your best, trying to bring something to the community is really what it's all about. Because without community, there is no Pauper, there is no Magic. Without the Gathering, there is no Magic.
Big agree to everything that you just said. I think that all of that is very true.
So,
did you have sort of anything else to say on positivity or anything like that?
nope. I think I went on my mini rant.
Yeah. Again, just to sort of wrap things up here, I think that trying to stay friendly and helpful, and if people have questions, don't make them feel stupid or anything. Be eager to show them and to learn, and you'll find that you will be a part of a much better community really quickly. But with that out of the way, did you sort of want to transition into what sideboard cards we think people should be playing this week?
Yep, I'm going to go ahead and beat my pet card drum again. I'm going to talk about one of my downshifts because I don't think people are playing this card enough, and they should be. And if you don't play this card and you're playing in red, I think you're playing. I think you're playing wrong. I think that this card for like pretty much every red deck I'm building going forward is finding 2 slots in the 75. I don't really care what the deck is. I don't care what it does. This card's always going to find at least 2 slots in my 75. And of course, I'm going to beat my drum about a braid. And part of the reason I wanted to beat my drum about this is I posted, for those of you who follow me on Twitter, I've been posting more polls recently because I've been thinking of writing up an article here in a little bit that I'd like to post. I'm not sure if it would be in our Patreon or what I'm going to do with it yet. But I was thinking a lot more about pet cards and, just kind of what pet cards do in different contexts. And my pet card, for some reason, has always been a braid. And it's weird because, like, I'm never, how, like, most people's are, like, super ecstatic whenever they cast their pet card and they're like, oh my gosh, I did it, right? I did the thing. I've never been super ecstatic to cast a braid, but it's a card I've never ever been disappointed to cast. If that makes any sense to anyone.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me.
I mean, it's never like, yay, I did the big splashy thing and won the game, but it's always been this card is like, I'm never mad to top deck a braid, pretty much. I'm rarely upset to top deck that card. There's very, very few matches where I top decked it and been like, oh, this card does literal nothing.
Yeah, for sure. A braid is super flexible.
Just being able for one in a red to kill a 3-power creature or destroy an artifact. I mean, it's defined in multiple formats. It's been good in the past. It continues to see play in multiple formats. I just don't know what to say more about this card. It's really, really good and you should play it. Always keep 2 copies in your 75 of your red decks. That's my advice going forward. It's never going to be terrible. It's especially in a very open meta. It's a card that's like it's a card that's never going to truly let you down. It's never going to do like the best thing ever. It's never going to be flashy. It's never going to just like, completely wreck your opponent, but it's never going to be bad. So, anyway, there's my spiel on a braid again.
Yeah. So my sideboard card, I also opted for flexibility. So mine was an instant for 1 and a green, return to nature. Um, for those of you that don't know what it does, you choose one, you destroy an artifact, an enchantment, or you exile a card from a graveyard. Um, Basically, I just think that this card handles a lot of or something about a lot of the top decks in Pauper, and it's something that you can side in against a lot of decks just because it does so much. And that is just such a huge boon for me, because usually in Pauper, a lot of the sideboard cards are these like really narrow, powerful effects that hose one specific thing. And this card does a lot of really narrow things, but they're all stapled on one card. So you can bring it in more matchups, and that makes it a huge get for me.
Yeah. I also really, really love siding this card against Tron because it's literally never ever dead. Because like early game, you can blow up one of their prophetic prisms, or late game they try to set up one of their loops with with a ghostly flicker, and they go like mnemonic wall target ghostly flicker, and you're like no, and they get sad. So yeah, it's pretty. It doesn't like kill Tron, but it's kind of good at also kind of hamstringing them a little bit to try to let you get in for those last bits of damage.
Uh, Another thing, the art from Throne is super good. I'm not sure if that's the art that the card has always had, but I really like this card's art, and that is another reason to play it.
Eldraine art Eldraine art was super top tier in my opinion.
Mine as well. There were a lot of really beautiful pieces that came out of that.
Too bad Oko was in that set.
But okay, I have a few friends that have cubes, and I really like to play Oko in their cubes. I never played Oko in constructed formats. I imagine that it was probably like the gameplay was probably okay, but got like boring at times. But Oko in limited formats is a lot of fun, and that being my only first-hand knowledge of the card is how I'm always going to think about it.
Turn 2 Oko is miserable.
Hey man, you like what you like?
Turn 1 Goose, turn 2 Oko plus to 6, make a food pass is like,
Yeah.
guess I lose.
Yeah. So I guess that is going to do it for this week's episode of Common Knowledge. If you guys wanted to get in touch with us, you could find me on Twitter at JustGuyDad, and you can find Colton on Twitter at SnapBoltBaral, or you can shoot us an email over at commonknowledgemtg@gmail.com. If you guys have any questions about the Pauper format, MTGO, or anything else in life, you can either send us an email, leave a comment. Just wanted to give a quick thank you again to our sponsor, PureMTGO.com, as well as the Constructive Criticism Network for letting us be a part of it. And last, but certainly not least, be good to each other, and thank you all for listening.
Thanks, everyone.